Now, here we hear from Dr. Alexandro Santos, who's being followed out of the courtroom in Kerrville by Cyril de Routier. Uh, it does clarify, Darlie said, he took my hand and said she's very lucky to be alive. It does clarify that, but it clarifies a lot of other things too. One, the superficial wound that Danelle says superficial does not mean a minor wound. Even Darren's mom agrees that superficial means a minor wound. Danelle tried to redefine that word. But here, let's listen to Dr. Alexandro Santos.
Darlie Routier was hustled in quickly for what may have been her toughest day in court yet. Testimony from Dr. Alex Santos, the physician who operated on her the morning of the attacks, seemed to contradict Routier's story of being attacked. He said the wound to her throat, scar still visible as she sat in court.
Notice the Sorota stopped and said something to the people filming her, to the news that was filming her. Can you imagine how that doctor felt walking out? It's like, why are you bothering me? I testified. Rest in peace, Sorota, but damn.
Court was medically superficial. He said it cut through skin, fat, and nicked muscle, but was not life-threatening. Family members were surprised to hear that.
How can it be superficial when it's supposed to be in the medical report that we have that it nicked the cardiac nerve but didn't penetrate it?
I told him it was potentially dangerous, that it could have been that she was very lucky. If the wound had gone deeper, she could have had a very serious injury. But as it turned out, she was very lucky that it was not a life-threatening injury.
Dr. Santos said the wound to Routier's arm here was not typical of a defense wound, nor were the cuts on her fingers right here. He says normally you would hold your hands up like this to protect yourself from someone trying to stab you. He said that would result in penetrating wounds in your hand, not two small cuts here.
They may not be typical, but I think when we're through, I think I expect the jury to agree with us that they are defense wounds. He just said it may or may not be what he would expect.
Santos also discussed bruising on Routier's arm, seen here the day she was arrested. Santos says he did not see the bruising the morning of the attack. He noticed it 4 days later at a checkup. The doctor said he did not believe the bruise was caused by the stab wound to her arm. He testified it most likely happened days after her boys were killed. Now, this raises even more questions in a case already riddled with mysteries. In Kerrville, Joe Munoz, Texas News 5.
See, I'm more inclined to believe the physicians that actually treated Darlie. Danelle and Sully can say whatever they want. Even Dr. Vince DeMaio, who they bring him up a lot, because he said they didn't look like self-inflicted wounds to him. But he was only looking at pictures, and he didn't treat Darlie. Again, on cross-examination, he was asked who was better to determine how these wounds were. Would it be better for the person that examined her to determine how these wounds were? And he said yes. So he gave his opinion. Just like James Cron gave his opinion, Danelle, when he walked into that scene. But I guess that this doctor is a liar, and he had drug problems, and he'd been in and out of mental institutions, and you couldn't believe a damn word he says. Because, that's what they keep saying about Beja, especially, after she did that interview with me. Nobody talked about Beja until she did that interview with me, and she spoke her mind. Beja did say on the stand that she was concerned for Darlie's suicide attempt after having a baby, because Beja went through that herself. She felt like that she was going to kill herself at one point in her life. So she recognized the signs of it because she had been through it. There's no indication of mental institutions. If you want to talk about somebody who's been through mental therapy, Darlie Key went through mental therapy before the crime. I see a shrink. I literally have been seeing a shrink for a couple years. People go through things. It doesn't make you crazy. Actually, if you're going to see a shrink, if you're going to see a doctor, that means you recognize that you might have a problem that you can't deal with on your own, and you need a little bit of help. You're smart enough to know that. Darlie weren't smart enough to know that.